Communication 90, third report from the Real Property Tax Review Working Group and Agricultural Committee. The report provides 3 recommendations for consideration by the County Council and the Administration: repair solar water heating tax credit, repeal the non-speculative residential program, and procedural change to real property tax classification.
This is a procedure that we started talking a story about probably a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half. And can you give, we have a couple of freshmen on the council now. Can you just give us a thumbnail overview of what triggered it, the process it went through, and where we are with it?
Their purpose was never tasked to actually increase revenue. The purpose of this group was to increase the fairness of the county's real property tax program, identify and incorporate best property tax administrative practices, propose additional tax programs as appropriate, and identify public policy goals and incorporating them into the county's real property tax program.
I got a lot of calls and emails over the weekend and this morning because there was an article in the newspaper about this report, and specifically about number 3, the procedural change to real property tax classification. And it's highlighted here that the working group is suggesting that properties that are zoned ag less than 1 acre be reclassified as residential. And so many constituents are writing and calling in because they feel that this is a move that you can make that doesn't require council action. So I was just wondering, what is the status of this particular recommendation? Is it something that your division is going to be pushing for? And if there's any public input that is going to be solicited before you make a decision on whether or not to act on this?
This is going to be the fun one for sure, and I'm pretty sure it was more than your constituents. I think several of the council members got calls from the article that ran. There's a couple of things, and I just want to clarify it because the calls we received was that there was confusion at the article that this was automatically changing their zoning, and planning department does their zoning, so they're zoned agricultural. These are properties that are less than 1 acre in size. And when you go to these properties and in many of these subdivisions, the actual evidence of any agricultural being done is very minimum. That came out in our review of all of the ag programs, so that's where they apply for the non-dedicated ag or the actual commercial ag programs. In addition to that, when most people are looking at these subdivisions, they don't realize it's agriculture. It looks like a residential subdivision. Some may have county water and others may not. When we did the discussions with the review group in regards to these, they looked at everything up to 5 acres. And everything that was under 5 acres, where's the line that you cut it off, that this looks, it smells, and it acts like a subdivision and a residential area. The issue that our county in the whole state has more agricultural zoning, whether it's right or wrong, is something that we can't continue to just ignore. The fact that the planning department didn't have zoning for a long time, and there's this whole procedural and dates, and if you want more, I can call on one of the real property tax review members, Bill Moore, because he is very knowledgeable about specific dates, and he's probably cringing as I'm talking about it now. But for the planning department to actually change zoning, that is much more of a nightmare. And I think for many years, council and our office has thought planning should change the zoning. Planning should change the zoning. It's residential. I don't know how they made half this island agriculture. In the meantime, we have had legitimate farmers come in, both big and small, that are in this agricultural program stating, why does my neighbor get this ag tax rate, which is lower, when they're not doing any ag? Like, shouldn't that rate be set aside and saved just for people that are actually doing agriculture? And it really gets down to the point of how fair is it that, and I'll use my subdivision. I live in, I'm not going to say the name of the subdivision, but I live in a subdivision in Waimea that's about 15,000 square foot lots. You drive in, it's a residential subdivision. We don't have underground utilities. We don't even have swales. We don't even have sidewalks. But it's a residential. There's not one single lot in this entire subdivision doing agriculture. Yet if you don't live there and you're renting it out, you pay the lower $9.35, like people that have agricultural property. And so there was a frustration among the island about how fair and equitable was the real property tax office being. In full disclosure, we do have properties that is zoned ag being taxed as residential. It wasn't applied correctly for many years. And so one of the things is trying to correct that. But honestly, having that line of where do you stop? Is it 1 acre? Because people brought up Hawaiian Paradise Park. You drive in there, you don't see a lot of actual agriculture going on in Paradise Park. And you keep on going, and they finally stopped it, and we said, okay, under 1 acre. And there's many reasons they stuck to the under 1 acre. But we wanted to provide some statistics if we're here today for a lot of the constituents that are concerned. There are a total of 24,995 parcels that are under 1 acre zoned agriculture. Of those, 18,330 parcels will not actually see an increase in taxes because they're already in the min tax. And even going up in the tax rate, they'll still be under the min tax, which is the current $200. They're either they're either in the homeowners class, which you're not going to see an increase because it's the 3% cap, or they're in some ag use program, which is either non-dedicated or dedicated. So that leaves us with 6,665 parcels that will see an increase. Of those parcels, 75% is under 15,000 square feet. There's not a whole lot of agriculture you can do with less than a 15,000 square foot lot. And so there was discussion about, do we cut it off lower than 1 acre? And the recommendation came back at the acre, less than 1 acre, excuse me.
So until the planning department rezones, you cannot, or you will not be increasing property tax rates and
Well,
reclassifying.
No, we're doing that already. We are doing that. We are sending the letters out in February, and they will change because they're not being classified correctly. So it's already in the county code. So what we're saying is it hasn't been evenly applied across the island. There are already parcels that are being taxed as residential that is actually in agricultural zoning, mostly in West Hawaii.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
What I think I'm understanding is that although the tax rate might change to a residential rate, under county zoning, the land use allowable uses wouldn't change because they could still be under ag, they could have chickens or whatever.
Correct. The state land use and the planning zoning is not changing.
Whereas you can change the rate to reflect more accurately what the,
Correct. We're supposed to be going on highest and best use, not on zoning. And so the new subdivisions come in, we do it strictly on use.
It helps us explain to people who will be getting these letters saying, hey, we're changing your real property tax category based on our observation of use and applying it fairly to the category that you're in, and then what the next steps are for them if they don't agree with that assessment.
We are sending the assessment notices out in March, and it will state on there what your classification is. We are also changing there's been a lot of complaints that have come up that say, when they get the assessment notice, it says in red letters, this is not a bill, so everybody tosses it. So we changed the wording on there to say that, it's time-sensitive material. Please read it or please open. But in addition to that, which is the only requirement we do have, is that we are sending a letter in February stating them, your assessment notice is coming, your classification is changing. We're hoping between the two, this will give them the opportunity to realize their property has a class change and they can file an appeal, which is by April 9th.
This only relates to properties under an acre, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Projected revenue from this change is 1.3 million added to real property, is that correct?
That is correct. It doesn't take into account how many people may appeal their rezoning.
It's just the
Correct.
guesstimate. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I yield.